In the dry Wild West town of Dust Creek, where the wind carried dust and secrets in equal measure, everyone noticed when Eliza's life changed in one quiet afternoon, because Eliza was known as a kind, hard-working woman who never complained even when life gave her very little, and she lived in a small wooden house with her sick father, doing sewing work for the town just to keep food on the table. And on that day the sheriff came with a tall man dressed in a clean dark coat, boots polished, posture calm and strong, a man people recognized at once as Mr. Nathaniel Hale, the richest ranch owner in the region, a millionaire by West standards, a man who owned land as far as the eye could see, and when people saw him standing at Eliza's door, whispers started like fire in dry grass, because rich men did not come to poor houses without a reason. Eliza stood there, hands shaking but face steady, as the sheriff explained that her father's debt to the town store had grown too large, and the owner demanded payment, and before Eliza could speak, Mr. Hale stepped forward and said in a low calm voice that he would pay everything, every coin, without delay, and the room went silent, because no one expected such an offer, and when the sheriff asked why, Mr. Hale looked at Eliza and said the words that would follow her like a shadow, "She will come with me," and the town heard it before Eliza could even breathe. And in that moment everyone believed the same thing, that she had been bought. Eliza felt her heart sink, not because she wanted to refuse, but because she had no choice, and when her father looked at her with tired eyes full of shame and love, she nodded slowly, choosing his life over her own dreams, and that night, as the sun fell behind the hills, Eliza climbed into Mr. Hale's carriage, the town watching in silence, some with pity, some with envy, some with judgment, while Mr. Hale sat across from her without touching her, his eyes forward, his voice distant, telling her the ride would be long, and that she would be safe, which confused her more than any threat could have. The journey to his ranch took hours, the land opening wide and empty, and Eliza noticed that Mr. Hale spoke little, but when he did, he spoke with care, offering her water, asking if she was cold, never raising his voice, never crossing a line. And this made her wonder what kind of man paid for a woman only to treat her like a guest, and when they arrived at the ranch, it was larger than anything she had ever seen, with long fences, quiet horses, and workers who looked at her with curiosity but not cruelty, and Mr. Hale showed her a small clean room with a window facing the fields, telling her she could rest and that no one would bother her, and before leaving, he said one rule, simple and firm: "No one owns your body here," and then he left, closing the door gently, leaving Eliza alone with thoughts she could not quiet. Days passed, and Eliza waited for demands that never came. Instead she was given work if she wished, meals at regular hours, and freedom to walk the land, and slowly she began to see Mr. Hale not as a monster, but as a lonely man, always working, always distant, carrying a weight she could feel but not name, and sometimes their eyes met across the yard, long looks filled with questions neither dared to ask, and once, when a horse threw Eliza to the ground, it was Mr. Hale who ran first, lifting her with care, his hands steady, his voice soft as he asked if she was hurt, and in that moment, Eliza felt something dangerous grow in her chest, something like hope, and that night she lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering why a rich man would pay for her freedom instead of her obedience, and why her heart felt pulled toward a man she did not understand, while far away in the town of Dust Creek, people still whispered, saying the millionaire had taken a poor woman for himself, unaware that the truth was far more complicated, and that this was only the beginning of a story that would test love, trust, and choice in ways none of them could imagine. Life at the Hale Ranch moved slowly, but every day carried a quiet tension that Eliza could feel even when nothing happened, because she woke each morning expecting Mr. Hale to change, to demand something from her, to remind her why he paid for her, yet he never did, and instead he kept his distance, speaking to her only when needed, always polite, always controlled, as if he was guarding himself more than guarding her, and this confused Eliza deeply, because she had prepared herself for fear, not for kindness wrapped in silence. She helped in the kitchen, learned how the ranch worked, and slowly the workers stopped seeing her as the woman he bought and started seeing her as just Eliza, the quiet woman with kind eyes who worked hard and asked for little. And still, the question followed her everywhere: why was she here, and what did Mr. Hale really want? Because sometimes she caught him watching her from a distance, not with hunger or control, but with a look that felt heavy, almost sad, and when their eyes met, he would turn away like he had revealed too much. One evening, as the sun painted the land gold, Eliza found Mr. Hale fixing a broken fence alone, and without thinking, she offered to help, and he hesitated before agreeing, and for the first time they worked side by side in silence, the sound of wind and wood filling the space between them. And when she thanked him for paying her father's debt, he stopped, looked at her carefully, and said, "You don't owe me gratitude, only honesty," and that single sentence stayed with her long after they parted, because it felt like a door opening just a little. Days turned into weeks, and Eliza began to feel safe in a way she never had before, not protected like a prisoner, but respected like a person, and that safety allowed her heart to soften, though she fought it, reminding herself that men like Mr. Hale did not rescue women without reason, and yet when she fell ill one night, it was he who sat outside her door until morning, making sure the doctor came, never entering, never touching, only staying close enough to show he cared. And when she recovered, she thanked him, and he replied quietly, "I would do it again," and in that moment, Eliza felt a warmth that scared her more than any threat could have. The ranch held secrets too, whispers among workers about Mr. Hale's past, about a woman who once lived there, a wife who vanished years ago, and when Eliza heard this, her heart tightened, because she realized she was living in a place shaped by another woman's absence, and one afternoon she asked him directly if it was true, and his face hardened, his voice low as he said, "Some stories are not ready to be told," and she respected that, even though it hurt, because she did not want to be another question in his life that demanded answers before he was ready. Slowly, without planning it, moments began to connect them, shared meals with careful glances, long walks where words felt unnecessary, laughter over small mistakes, and the quiet comfort of being understood without explanation. And Eliza started to believe that maybe she was not bought, maybe she was chosen for something else, something gentler, and this thought filled her with both hope and fear, because hope made her forget the deal that brought her here, and fear reminded her that love built on silence could break easily. One night, during a small gathering at the ranch, a visitor joked loudly about Mr. Hale's generosity, saying he always paid well for what he wanted, and the room went still, and before Eliza could react, Mr. Hale spoke sharply, "She is not an object," and the way he said it, firm and clear, made her chest ache, because in that moment she felt seen in a way she never had before. And later, as the stars spread across the sky, Eliza stood alone, wondering when her feelings had crossed the line from gratitude to something deeper, something dangerous, and she realized that she wanted him to look at her again the way he did when he thought she wasn't watching. Yet doubt crept in with the night air, because love built on mystery often hides pain, and Eliza sensed that Mr. Hale carried a truth that could change everything, and somewhere deep inside, she feared that when that truth came out, it would not set them free, but pull them apart. And as she closed her eyes that night, she did not know that the quiet bond forming between them was standing on the edge of a revelation that would test whether respect could survive secrets, and whether love could grow where honesty had not yet arrived. The change came quietly, the way storms often do before anyone notices the sky darkening, because Eliza began to feel that something important was being kept from her, something that lived in the spaces between Mr. Hale's careful words and his long silences. And though their bond had grown stronger through shared days and unspoken care, the distance between truth and feeling became harder to ignore, especially when she started to believe that his kindness meant something more, that perhaps he intended to make her his wife one day. And this thought filled her with hope she tried to hide, because hope was dangerous when born from uncertainty. One morning, while helping in the main house, Eliza overheard two older workers speaking in low voices about the woman who came before, and though they stopped when they saw her, the damage was done, because curiosity turned into fear, and fear demanded answers. And that evening, when the sun sank low and the land grew quiet, Eliza finally gathered the courage to ask Mr. Hale the question she had been holding back, asking him plainly if he had ever been married, and the moment the words left her mouth, his expression changed, not with anger, but with a sadness so deep it made her heart tighten, and after a long silence, he nodded slowly and said, "Yes," and that single word felt heavier than 100 lies, because it confirmed what she feared but did not want to believe. He told her that his wife had left years ago, that she had walked out one night and never returned, leaving only silence behind, and though he did not speak badly of her, the pain in his voice told Eliza that the wound had never healed, and as she listened, her mind raced, because suddenly everything looked different, the rules, the distance, the care that never crossed a line, and she realized that she had built a dream on ground that was never meant to hold it, and when she asked why he never told her before, he said quietly, because some truths hurt even when they are spoken with care, and though she understood his fear, the knowledge still cut deep. That night, Eliza lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment they had shared, wondering if she had imagined the feelings she thought existed between them, or if he had allowed them to grow without intention. And the next day, she confronted him again, this time with a question that shook her own voice, asking him why he paid for her if he was already tied to another woman, and for the first time, Mr. Hale looked truly shaken, as if the past and present had finally collided, and he answered honestly, saying, "I never paid for love," and those words landed like a cold wind, stripping away the warmth she had built around her heart. He explained that he believed bringing her to the ranch would solve a problem, that it was meant to be simple, controlled, and safe, but he admitted that things had changed in ways he did not expect, and Eliza felt anger rise alongside heartbreak, because change without truth felt like betrayal, and she told him that kindness without honesty could still cause pain, and when she said, "You paid for me, but you lied," he did not deny it, only lowered his eyes, accepting the weight of her words. The ranch that once felt like a place of safety now felt uncertain, and Eliza began to pull away, keeping distance, guarding her heart the way she once guarded her freedom, and Mr. Hale noticed, though he did not stop her, because he believed he deserved the silence she gave him, and the workers felt the shift too, the air growing heavier, conversations shorter, as if everyone sensed that something fragile had cracked. Days passed with little contact between them, and Eliza struggled with her feelings, torn between the man who treated her with respect and the truth that he had never fully trusted her with his past. And one afternoon, as she packed her few belongings, considering leaving the ranch, Mr. Hale found her, standing in the doorway, and told her she was free to go whenever she wished, that the debt was paid and the choice was hers. And though his words were fair, they hurt more than any command, because freedom offered without understanding felt like abandonment, and Eliza realized then that love could not survive in shadows, no matter how gentle those shadows felt at first. As night fell, she stood outside, looking at the wide land stretching into darkness, knowing that whatever choice she made next would change everything, because now she knew the truth, and once the truth enters a heart, it cannot be ignored, only accepted or walked away from. And as she watched the stars appear, Eliza understood that the story between her and Mr. Hale had reached a point where love would either demand honesty or end in silence, and she did not yet know which path they would take, only that the next step would reveal whether what they shared was strong enough to survive the truth that had finally come into the light. The truth did not come all at once but unfolded slowly, like a wound finally opened so it could heal, because the next morning Mr. Hale asked Eliza to walk with him beyond the fields where the land dipped into quiet hills, and there, away from the workers and the house full of memories, he finally spoke without hiding, telling her that the real reason he paid for her freedom had nothing to do with control or desire, but with fear and protection. Because years ago his wife, Clara, had not only left him but disappeared after crossing dangerous men who wanted his land, men who believed hurting the woman he loved was the fastest way to break him, and when Eliza arrived in Dust Creek, looking almost exactly like Clara, the same hair, the same shape of face, the same calm strength in her eyes, those men noticed her too, and whispers reached Mr. Hale that she might be used as leverage, and in a moment of panic, he chose the only solution he knew, to bring her under his roof where he could protect her. Even if it meant letting the town believe something ugly, Eliza listened, torn between understanding and pain, because while his reason came from concern, his silence had still stolen her choice, and she told him that protection without truth felt too much like a cage, even if the door was open, and Mr. Hale accepted this without defense, admitting that fear had made him selfish, that he had believed keeping her close without explanation was safer than trusting her with the truth, and that was his greatest mistake. Before Eliza could respond, the sound of horses broke the quiet, and from the distance came a figure she had only known through whispers, a woman riding straight and steady, her posture proud, her eyes sharp, and when she dismounted, there was no doubt, this was Clara, Mr. Hale's wife, alive and very real, and the air seemed to stop as she looked from him to Eliza with calm understanding rather than anger. Because Clara already knew why Eliza was there, Clara spoke first, saying she never returned because she never loved the life she lived, that she left to chase freedom and power, not loyalty, and when she learned men were still using her name to control Nathaniel, she returned not for him, but to end the game, and she made it clear that Eliza was never meant to be a replacement, only an unfortunate reflection of her past. The meeting was painful but honest, and Eliza saw clearly then that Mr. Hale's heart had been broken long before she arrived, and that his care for her grew not from duty, but from something he never planned, and Clara confirmed this by saying, "You look at her the way you never looked at me," which left him silent, unable to deny it. Clara offered to sign the final papers that would end the marriage officially, not as a gift, but as a clean ending for all of them, and with that, she left again, lighter than when she arrived, while Eliza stood feeling the weight of choice settle fully on her shoulders, because now there were no secrets left to hide behind. Mr. Hale turned to her and told her she was free in every sense, that she owed him nothing, that she could leave with her head high, and though his voice was calm, Eliza could hear the fear underneath, the fear of losing her now that honesty had arrived too late, and she realized that love, when real, does not demand staying, it only asks for truth. Eliza spent the night thinking, not about money or debt, but about the man she had come to know, the man who chose respect even when it cost him closeness, and the man who finally trusted her enough to tell her everything, and by morning, she understood that love could not erase the past, but it could choose what came next. When she met Mr. Hale again, she told him she was angry, hurt, and afraid, but she also told him that honesty had given her something he never bought, a choice, and she needed time to decide what that choice would be, and Mr. Hale accepted this without argument, because for the first time, he loved her enough to let her go if she wished. As Eliza walked across the land, she felt the story shifting. Because what began as a transaction had turned into a test of truth, and now the final question stood quietly between them, not whether love existed, but whether love could survive the pain of how it began, and as the wind moved through the fields, Eliza knew that the answer would come not from fear or debt, but from the one thing neither of them could buy, a free and willing heart. The morning Eliza made her decision arrived quietly, with soft light spreading over the fields and the ranch, waking in slow familiar sounds, and she stood for a long time at the edge of the land, breathing in the open air, understanding that freedom did not always mean leaving, sometimes it meant choosing to stay without fear or debt, and when she walked back toward the house, she found Mr. Hale already waiting, not with demands or promises, but with patience written on his face, and she told him plainly that she would stay, not because he paid for her, not because he protected her, but because she wanted to see what love could become when built on truth, and those words lifted a weight he had carried for years. From that day forward, everything changed in small but important ways, because Eliza was no longer a guest hidden behind kindness, but a woman with a voice, and Mr. Hale listened, learning to share decisions, fears, and hopes, and the ranch slowly transformed into a place of partnership rather than control. And though the town of Dust Creek still whispered, their whispers no longer mattered, because what mattered was the life growing quietly between two people who chose each other freely. Time passed, seasons turned, and love showed itself not in grand moments, but in simple ones: shared meals, long talks at sunset, work done side by side. And in these moments, Eliza saw the man Mr. Hale was becoming, less guarded, more open, and he saw in her not a reflection of the past, but a future shaped by courage and trust. When the final papers ending his marriage arrived, there was no celebration, only relief, because closure does not always bring joy, sometimes it brings peace, and with peace came space for something new to grow, and slowly, naturally, love deepened into something strong and steady. One evening, under a sky full of stars, Mr. Hale asked Eliza if she would choose him again, not as a rescue, not as a debt, but as an equal, and when she said yes, her voice was calm and sure, because love built on choice does not need fear to hold it together. Their wedding was simple, held on the land that had witnessed their story from the beginning, with workers and townsfolk standing together, seeing not a purchase, but a partnership, and Eliza walked forward not as a woman owned, but as a woman respected, and when she took his hand, it was with strength, not surrender. Life did not become perfect, because no love story truly does, but it became honest, and together they faced challenges with trust instead of silence, and the past no longer ruled their future. In time, Dust Creek stopped whispering and started telling a different story, about a man who learned to let go of control and a woman who chose love without losing herself. And years later, when people spoke of the millionaire and the woman he paid for, they finished the tale with truth, saying he never owned her, and she stayed not because she had to, but because she wanted to, and that was the real ending, one where love won not through power or fear, but through honesty, respect, and free choice, leaving behind a legacy stronger than land or money, a story of love that began in shadows but found its way fully into the light.